I'm Danielle, and this is Chatter Out Loud, a podcast where I share thoughts and TV commentary on shows I like to watch. Now, before I start, I want to ask that you go ahead and like, follow, share, and subscribe. And on YouTube, where I upload my companion episode of my podcast, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. This way you can get a notification every time I post a new episode and you won't miss out. So welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me. Your presence is very much appreciated. All right, so we are in the final episodes of The Circle, season 4, before the finale next week. This would be the second season I watched of The Circle, and it's kind of different for me. I'm a huge Big Brother fan, and I love like the strategy, the social element of the game, and the competitions. And I like the disagreements and the fights and stuff too, and the backstabbing. I like to see the interaction between the house guests, and while The Circle could be considered similar, it's just not the same. And my expectations for The Circle were a little high, and it's just not delivering like I thought it would, but that's okay. I'm gonna continue to finish out the season. I mean, we only have one more week, one more episode. The final episode. There's only one left, and that they'll drop that next week on Netflix, right? But I'm not so sure that I'll continue to do this, but we'll see. It's almost like a holdover until the Big Brother game. It didn't last that long either. But whatever. The Circle is very, very different. Anyway, I'm going to finish out this season. And in this episode of my podcast, I'm going to be recapping episodes 9 through 12. So here we go. At the end of episode 8, and where they picked up on episode 9, we were left with a cliffhanger. And Brew was about to save either John Carroll or Alyssa. I had a strong suspicion that he'd save John Carroll, and I was right. Given the fact that Brew was in an alliance with both of them, and that everyone all suspected that John Carroll is catfishing, Brew chose to save John Carroll over Alyssa, and both Alyssa and her pillow were blocked. I thought it was a good choice. She was very strategic. She took copious notes, and she was just behind getting rid of Krissa, which I still don't understand why, but she did that. And her targets in the game really confused me, considering the fact that she acknowledged or thought all the time that John Carroll was catfishing, and yet John Carroll wasn't a target. But whatever. Alyssa was pretty bummed about being blocked, of course, and she should be, because with all of that work and writing the notes and keeping track of everybody's lies and what they were saying and all of the alliances, she still got. All right, based on the chain of safety and who saved whom, Yu-Ling quickly became more of a target throughout all of this. She was supposed to be in an alliance with Alyssa and Rachel, I think. I also think Yu-Ling knew what she was doing and was deep down inside, she was happy that Alyssa was blocked. After all of this, it got kind of spicy in the Circle chat, and Yu-Ling and John Carroll were going back and forth. I believe John Carroll's intention of going back and forth or trying to call out Yu-Ling, the intention behind that was just to put a target on Yu-Ling's back. And Yu-Ling, in playing her own game, she just wanted to throw the blame on Brew. Right? Because after all, Brew saved John Carroll. But Brew wasn't having any of that. He wasn't taking accountability. He kept going back and low-key blaming Yu-Ling, saying, well, why did you save Rachel? Or did he? Yeah, she saved Rachel or Alex Nathan, I believe, during the chain of safety, instead of saving John Carroll. So Yu-Ling was blaming Brew. Brew was blaming Yu-Ling. It was pretty funny. I want to talk a little bit about the activity, the game that they played. There were two teams, Team Peach and Team Eggplant. Team Peach was Carol, Everson, Brew, and Frank. Team Eggplant was Yu-Ling, Nathan, Imani, and Rachel. By the way, it wasn't lost on me, the intention behind having a Team Peach and a Team Eggplant. Anyway, the game was a game that measured steps and a distance for a specific period of time, and whichever team had the furthest distance wins the game. Some actually ran and moved around the apartment, and others just moved the pedometer with their hand, like waving it back and forth. Rachel. Right? In the end, Team Eggplant won, and on that team, again, Team Eggplant was Yuling, Nathan, Imani, and Rachel. Overall, the performances gave more insight into how individual players performed, and many questioned John Carroll's performance in terms of how well Carroll's performance was for a 63-year-old woman. That led to even more suspicion of John Carroll catfishing. They all keep saying, I know John Carroll's a catfish, but no one's doing anything. Right? At least not at this point. All right. There were many group chats throughout the day where people were talking strategy and solidifying alliances. Rachel's group chat with Trevor, Imani, and Yuling went well. Frank had a chat with Trevor, Imani. Everson's chat with John Carroll. Yeah, that was... No, I won't say desperate. He tried because he was trying to get aligned with John Carroll. But at this point, John Carroll, I don't know. We'll talk about that in a second. Frank's chat with Brew was an emotional one where Frank shared about losing his parents. So that was pretty good. Or not pretty good in terms of the story being good, but pretty good in terms of how they bonded. That's what I meant. All right. In my opinion, I think Frank is a front runner to win this season, but you never know. I think Alex Nathan is playing the game really, really hard, and he's getting a little dirty, and it's working. When they did that portrait game, while a lot of people focused on being fun and funny, he decided to be a little shady with his portrait of Frank, drawing a snake and writing backstabber and in the middle. And with the portrait game, it was anonymous, so you could draw anything. And like I said, most of the people were trying to be fun or funny. Alex Nathan drew a portrait of Frank and called him a snake. And it did throw Frank off his game, where he thought Brew did it. And Frank holds on to that throughout the rest of the episode, and the upcoming rating and elimination, by the way. We also see how much work Alex Nathan put in to get Frank to believe Brew did the portrait, right? Because they had a chat and he convinced Frank that Brew was the one. With the rating, I said that right. With the rating in these episodes 9 through 12, Frank and Yuling were influencers for the second time each, and as influencers, they had to save 2 people each, and the last 2 players left would be who would be left to choose from to block. So Frank chose Trevor, Imani, and Rachel. Yuling chose Alex, Nathan, and Brew. So this left Everson and John Carroll up on the block, this is not Big Brother, left them in danger, I should say. And so one of them would Frank and Yuling would have to select between Everson and John Carroll in terms of who to block, and they chose to block John Carroll, which I thought was the right move, right? The next day, John Carroll got to leave a message on the news feed, and they all learned that he was catfishing. And that was pretty fun to watch, their reactions. So at this point, Alyssa and John Carroll are out of the game. And I didn't realize the timing of these episodes when they shot them. It was during Thanksgiving, apparently, because they celebrated Thanksgiving. They had a nice dinner for them, individually, of course, in their own apartments. And they all received videos of their family members, and that was nice to watch. It was really emotional for all of them. Then they received another alert after the Thanksgiving cleanup for another rating from 1st to 6th, right? And everybody was concentrating on rating who was going to be the first, who was going to be the second, you know? The lowest rated player would be blocked. After the ratings were complete, they didn't even go through who placed where. You know how usually they said in 6th place, this person. Nope. They went right to the lowest rated player. That player would be blocked immediately, and that person was Brew. Yep. Now Brew is out of the game, which I also thought was a good move. He had a chance to go see someone, and Brew went to see Alex Nathan. And of course, he found out that Alex Nathan was catfishing, and he came clean. Alex Nathan, that is, came clean with Brew in terms of his gameplay, of his strategy, and obviously catfishing. And he told him that he told Frank that Brew was the one that drew the painting. That was funny. So Alex Nathan is playing really, really hard, and I wonder if this approach will work for him to win the game. So we'll have to see. And in one last surprise in the episodes 9 through 12, there was a secret super influencer rated, right? And that person was Frank, because he was rated number 1. And he decides who would be the second person to be blocked for the night. So after Brew had just been blocked, now because the top the person rated number 1 would now have would be a secret super influencer, and then decide who would be blocked immediately. The way they shared these results was showing the finalists in no particular order, and the person not selected would be blocked. And the finalists were revealed in this order. Rachel, Trevor Amani, Frank Yuling, and then they left us with another cliffhanger. So either Everson or Alex Nathan will be blocked. We'll find out in the season finale next week. I'd like to believe that Frank is on to Alex Nathan and he'll keep Everson safe, but you never know. What do you think? I do have to say that I'm happy that Alyssa, John Carroll, and Brew are out of the game, one right after another. That's the way to do that. I am kind of liking how hard Alex Nathan is playing, but I don't know if that will bring him a win. I think Frank is very likable, and that he's liked by everyone. But I think that might make him a target in the end, right? To prevent him from winning. I don't know, but I think he's the front runner. I don't think Everson has a shot at winning. I'm sorry. He's just not likable, and he won't be rated high at all. I really don't think Trevor Amani will win either. I'm not sure his gameplay is that good of a game to be. I mean, it brought him in the finals. I guess he's a finalist, but I don't think he'll win. I think it really comes down to Frank Yuling or Alex Nathan. But like with anything else, I could be 100% wrong about all of this. Any or all of it, right? But let me know what you think. Okay, I appreciate that. And that's all I have. So be sure to come back and give me a listen. I'd love for you to like, share, follow, and subscribe. Thank you very much. My name is Danielle, and you're listening to my podcast, Chatter Out Loud. Thank you so much for joining me. And as always, I appreciate your support. And that's all I have. Thanks again for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.